It is better to do something than to do nothing while waiting. Winston Churchill, they tell you ignorance is bliss. They want you pacified, content in your gilded cage of lies, but bliss is a drug and ignorance is the dealer. You're hooked on a reality manufactured to keep you docile, obedient, and ultimately powerless. We're here to break that addiction. We're here to show you the raw, unvarnished truth, the kind that bites, the kind that makes you question everything. This isn't about comfort, it's about freedom. Freedom from the mental shackles they've carefully crafted for you. The truth isn't a gentle whisper. It's a roaring fire, consuming the illusions they feed you. The world doesn't reward niceness. It rewards effectiveness. They teach you to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to prioritize the feelings of others above your own ambitions. This is a carefully constructed trap designed to neuter your potential. The successful don't shy away from confrontation. They embrace it. They understand that progress demands friction, that growth requires pushing against resistance. They know that true power lies in the ability to say no, to stand your ground, and to fight for what you deserve, regardless of who gets offended. The truth is, the world is a zero-sum game. Every advantage someone else gains is a disadvantage for you. To pretend otherwise is to willingly surrender your future. Your feelings are irrelevant to the cold calculus of reality. You've been taught to value emotional expression, to prioritize feelings over logic. While emotions are a part of the human experience, they are often unreliable guides, easily manipulated and exploited. The successful learn to master their emotions, to use logic and reason as their primary tools for navigating the world. They understand that sentimentality is a weakness, that it clouds judgment and prevents clear thinking. They make decisions based on facts, not feelings. They build their empires on strategy, not sympathy. They know that the path to success is paved with hard choices, choices that often require sacrificing emotional comfort for long-term gain. Victimhood is a choice, not a circumstance. The world is filled with people who blame their failures on external forces, on bad luck, on systemic injustice. While these factors can undoubtedly present obstacles, they are not insurmountable. The successful take radical responsibility for their lives. They refuse to be defined by their circumstances. They see obstacles as opportunities, challenges as fuel for growth. They understand that complaining is a waste of energy, that focusing on solutions is the only path forward. They don't ask for permission, they forge their own path. They don't wait for handouts, they build their own empires. They understand that the only thing standing between them and their goals is their own willingness to take action. Hard work alone is not enough. You must work strategically. They tell you that if you just work hard enough, you'll eventually achieve your dreams. This is a lie designed to keep you grinding, toiling away for someone else's benefit. The successful understand that hard work is a necessary but insufficient condition for success. They work smart, not just hard. They identify the leverage points, the areas where their efforts will yield the greatest returns. They understand the power of delegation, of building systems, of automating processes. They don't waste their time on tasks that can be outsourced or eliminated. They focus on the high-impact activities that move them closer to their goals. They understand that time is their most valuable asset, and they guard it fiercely. The truth is often brutal, but it is always liberating. They try to shield you from the harsh realities of the world, to protect you from discomfort and pain. But this protection comes at a cost. It weakens you, it makes you dependent, it prevents you from developing the resilience and resourcefulness you need to thrive. The successful embrace the truth, no matter how ugly or uncomfortable it may be. They understand that facing reality head-on is the only way to overcome its challenges. They don't sugarcoat the truth. They dissect it, analyze it, and use it to their advantage. They know that ignorance is a form of slavery, and that true freedom comes from seeing the world as it truly is. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It demands courage, discipline, and a willingness to challenge everything you've been taught. But the rewards are immeasurable: freedom, power, and the ability to shape your own destiny. The human mind is a complex battleground, a constant struggle between comfortable lies and the harsh truth. Most people choose the former, seeking solace in illusions that reinforce their pre-existing beliefs. This is a survival mechanism, a way to cope with the inherent uncertainty and pain of existence. But it's also a trap. The more you cling to comforting falsehoods, the further you drift from reality, and the less equipped you become to deal with its challenges. The successful, however, recognize this trap and actively resist its pull. They understand that intellectual honesty, the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, is the foundation of all real progress. It's not about being cynical or pessimistic. It's about seeing the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. This requires a constant questioning of assumptions, a relentless pursuit of evidence, and a willingness to change your mind when confronted with new information. It's a difficult and often painful process, but it's the only way to escape the prison of your own biases and limitations. Consider the concept of self-deception. We all engage in it to some extent, rationalizing our failures, exaggerating our strengths, and distorting reality to fit our desired narrative. This is a natural human tendency, a way to protect our fragile egos from the sting of disappointment. But the successful recognize that self-deception is a dangerous game. It blinds you to your weaknesses, prevents you from learning from your mistakes, and ultimately hinders your growth. They cultivate a ruthless self-awareness, a willingness to confront their own flaws and shortcomings. This requires a high degree of emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize and manage your own emotions, as well as the emotions of others. It's about being honest with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, and using that honesty to fuel your improvement. They understand that the only way to become the best version of yourself is to first acknowledge the worst parts of yourself. The world is filled with narratives designed to manipulate and control. Governments, corporations, and even individuals use propaganda, misinformation, and emotional appeals to shape public opinion and advance their own agendas. The successful are adept at recognizing these tactics and resisting their influence. They cultivate a healthy skepticism, a willingness to question authority and challenge conventional wisdom. They don't blindly accept what they are told. They seek out multiple perspectives, analyze the evidence, and draw their own conclusions. This requires a strong understanding of logic, critical thinking, and rhetoric. It's about being able to identify biases, fallacies, and manipulative techniques, and to construct your own arguments based on sound reasoning and factual evidence. They understand that information is power, and they are determined to control the flow of information in their own lives. Think about the concept of delayed gratification. Most people are wired to seek immediate pleasure and avoid immediate pain. This is a primal instinct, a survival mechanism that has served us well throughout human history. But in the modern world, this instinct can be a liability. The successful understand that true success often requires delaying gratification, sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term gain. They are willing to endure discomfort, hardship, and even pain in pursuit of their goals. This requires a high degree of self-discipline, the ability to control your impulses and resist temptations. It's about being able to focus on the long-term vision, even when the present moment is challenging. They understand that the rewards of delayed gratification are far greater than the fleeting pleasures of instant gratification. They see the bigger picture, the long game, and they are willing to make the necessary sacrifices to achieve their ultimate goals. They are masters of their own desires, not slaves to them. The successful also understand the importance of embracing failure. Most people fear failure, viewing it as a sign of weakness or inadequacy. They avoid taking risks, stick to what they know, and try to play it safe. But the successful recognize that failure is an inevitable part of the learning process. They see it as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to improve. They are not afraid to take risks, to experiment, and to push themselves beyond their comfort zones. They understand that the only way to achieve great things is to be willing to fail along the way. This requires a resilient mindset, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward. It's about learning from your mistakes, adapting your strategies, and never giving up on your goals. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to success. They embrace it, learn from it, and use it to their advantage. Consider the power of focus. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with information, distractions, and demands on our attention. It's easy to get overwhelmed, scattered, and unproductive. The successful understand the importance of focus, the ability to concentrate your attention on a single task or goal. They are able to block out distractions, prioritize their tasks, and stay focused on what matters most. This requires a high degree of mental discipline, the ability to control your thoughts and direct your attention. It's about being able to identify your most important tasks, eliminate distractions, and create a focused environment. They understand that focus is a superpower, and they cultivate it diligently. They protect their time and energy, and they use them wisely to achieve their goals. They are not swayed by the noise and distractions of the world. They stay focused on their mission. The truth in its rawest form is a catalyst. It forces you to confront your own limitations, to acknowledge the harsh realities of the world, and to make difficult choices. It's not always pleasant, but it's always necessary. The successful understand this, and they embrace the truth, even when it's painful. They know that it's the only way to achieve true freedom, power, and the ability to shape their own destiny. They don't shy away from the uncomfortable questions. They seek them out. They don't hide from the harsh realities. They confront them head-on. They understand that the truth is the foundation of all real progress, and they are willing to pay the price to obtain it. This is not a path for the faint of heart, but it is the only path to true greatness. It's a path that demands courage, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to the truth. And it's a path that ultimately leads to a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. Consider the story of a mid-level executive, let's call him Mark, working tirelessly at a large corporation. Mark is ambitious, driven, and believes in the meritocratic ideal. He's been putting in long hours, exceeding expectations, and consistently delivering results, all in the hope of climbing the corporate ladder. He believes that his hard work and dedication will eventually be recognized and rewarded with a promotion to a senior management position. He's been playing the game according to the rules, attending all the right meetings, networking with key people, and always presenting a positive and enthusiastic attitude. He genuinely believes that the company values loyalty, competence, and hard work. He trusts the system. However, unbeknownst to Mark, the reality of corporate politics is far more complex and often brutally unfair. While he's focused on delivering results, others are focused on building alliances, cultivating relationships, and strategically positioning themselves for advancement. Some of his colleagues, who are less competent and less dedicated, are actively engaged in subtle power plays, undermining his efforts and spreading rumors behind his back. They understand that perception is often more important than reality, and they are skilled at manipulating the narrative to their advantage. They are masters of self-promotion, exaggerating their accomplishments, and taking credit for the work of others. They understand the unspoken rules of the game, the hidden agendas, and the subtle cues that determine who gets ahead. They are willing to do whatever it takes, even if it means sacrificing their integrity and betraying their colleagues. One day, a senior management position opens up, and Mark believes he is the obvious choice. He has the qualifications, the experience, and the track record to excel in the role. He's confident that his hard work will finally pay off. He prepares meticulously for the interview, outlining his accomplishments, highlighting his skills, and presenting a compelling vision for the future of the company. He believes that the decision will be based solely on merit and that the best candidate will be selected. But the reality is far different. The decision has already been made behind closed doors, based on factors that have nothing to do with competence or qualifications. A candidate with strong connections to senior management, who is well-liked and politically savvy, is selected for the role, despite having a weaker track record and less relevant experience than Mark. Mark is devastated. He feels betrayed, undervalued, and disillusioned. He realizes that his hard work and dedication were not enough, that the system is rigged against him. He begins to question everything he believed in, the values he held dear and the sacrifices he made. He feels like a fool, a pawn in a game he didn't understand. He spirals into a state of anger, resentment, and despair. He loses his motivation, his enthusiasm, and his sense of purpose. He starts to underperform, to isolate himself, and to become cynical and bitter. His career stagnates, and his personal life suffers. He becomes a victim of his own naivete, his inability to see the truth about the world and the people around him. The brutal truth is that the world doesn't care about your hard work, your dedication, or your good intentions. It rewards those who understand the game, who are willing to play it ruthlessly, and who are not afraid to make difficult choices. Mark's mistake was to believe in a false narrative, to ignore the warning signs, and to underestimate the power of politics. He failed to recognize that success is not solely determined by merit, but also by relationships, influence, and strategic maneuvering. He was blind to the hidden agendas, the unspoken rules, and the subtle power dynamics that shaped the outcome. He paid the price for his ignorance, his naivete, and his unwillingness to confront the uncomfortable truths about the world. He could have learned the game, adapted his strategy, and fought for his place. But he chose to remain blind, to cling to his idealistic beliefs, and to ultimately become a victim of his own delusion. The truth is a harsh mistress, and she punishes those who refuse to acknowledge her. Mark's story isn't unique. It's a pattern repeated across industries and social circles, a consequence of believing in a meritocracy that rarely exists in its purest form. He fell into the trap of thinking that simply being good at his job would guarantee success, a naive assumption that ignores the complex interplay of human ambition, power dynamics, and hidden agendas. The world isn't a level playing field. It's a jungle where the fittest survive, and fitness isn't just about skill, but also about awareness, adaptability, and a willingness to play the game according to its often unspoken rules. Mark's downfall was his refusal to acknowledge this reality, his insistence on clinging to a comfortable illusion of fairness. He believed that hard work and talent would be enough, failing to recognize that success often requires navigating treacherous social landscapes, building strategic alliances, and understanding the motivations of those around him. He was a pawn in a game he didn't even know he was playing, a victim of his own innocence. This naivete is a common weakness, a vulnerability exploited by those who understand the true nature of power. They recognize that most people are conditioned to believe in a just and fair world, a world where good deeds are rewarded and bad deeds are punished. They use this belief against them, manipulating their expectations and taking advantage of their unwillingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Mark's superiors likely saw him as a useful tool, someone who could be relied upon to work hard and deliver results without asking too many questions. They knew that he wouldn't challenge the status quo, that he would accept their decisions without protest, and that he would remain loyal even when treated unfairly. They exploited his naivete for their own gain, using him as a stepping stone to advance their own careers. The tragedy is that Mark had the potential to succeed, but he lacked the necessary awareness and strategic thinking. He could have learned to recognize the warning signs, to anticipate the moves of his rivals, and to build a network of allies who would support him. He could have become a player in the game, rather than a pawn, but he chose to remain blind, clinging to his idealistic beliefs and refusing to acknowledge the harsh realities of the world. This is the trap that many fall into. The belief that hard work and talent are enough, the refusal to confront uncomfortable truths, and the unwillingness to play the game according to its unspoken rules. The truth is that success requires more than just skill and dedication. It requires awareness, adaptability, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It requires understanding the motivations of those around you, building strategic alliances, and navigating treacherous social landscapes. It requires recognizing that the world isn't always fair, and that sometimes you have to fight for what you deserve. Mark's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that naivete can be a fatal flaw and that ignorance is never bliss. To thrive in a competitive world, you must be willing to see the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. You must be willing to confront the harsh realities of power and ambition, and to play the game according to its rules. Only then can you avoid becoming a victim of your own innocence and achieve the success you deserve. This isn't about advocating for dishonesty or unethical behavior. It's about recognizing that the world is not always as it seems, and that understanding the true dynamics at play is crucial for self-preservation and achieving your goals. It's about being aware of the hidden agendas, the unspoken rules, and the subtle power dynamics that shape outcomes. It's about recognizing that success often requires more than just hard work and talent. It requires strategic thinking, political savvy, and a willingness to navigate complex social landscapes. Mark's downfall wasn't a result of his lack of skill or dedication. It was a result of his naivete, his unwillingness to see the truth, and his refusal to play the game. He could have achieved great things, but he allowed himself to be blinded by his own idealism. The lesson here is not to become cynical or distrustful, but to become more aware and more strategic. It's about understanding that the world is a complex and often unfair place, and that success requires more than just good intentions. It requires a clear understanding of the rules of the game, the motivations of the players, and the power dynamics at play. It requires the ability to anticipate challenges, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to build alliances that will support your goals. It requires the courage to confront uncomfortable truths, to challenge the status quo, and to fight for what you deserve. Mark's story is a reminder that naivete is a dangerous weakness, and that awareness is the key to survival and success. The hunger for truth is not a passive desire, it's an active pursuit. It requires a willingness to question assumptions, to challenge conventional wisdom, and to seek out information that others may try to hide. It requires a critical eye, an open mind, and a relentless curiosity. It requires the courage to confront uncomfortable realities, to acknowledge your own biases, and to challenge your own beliefs. It's a journey that can be painful and unsettling, but it's also essential for personal growth and success. Those who embrace the hunger for truth are better equipped to navigate the complexities of the world, to make informed decisions, and to achieve their goals. They are less likely to be manipulated, deceived, or taken advantage of. They are more resilient, more adaptable, and more successful. The alternative is to remain in a state of blissful ignorance, to accept the world as it is presented to you, and to believe everything you are told. But this is a dangerous path, a path that leads to naivete, vulnerability, and ultimately failure. The world is full of hidden agendas, unspoken rules, and subtle power dynamics. Those who are unaware of these realities are easily manipulated and exploited. They become pawns in a game they don't understand, victims of their own innocence. Mark's story is a stark reminder of the consequences of ignorance, a testament to the importance of embracing the hunger for truth. He could have avoided his fate, but he chose to remain blind, clinging to his idealistic beliefs and refusing to acknowledge the harsh realities of the world. The hunger for truth is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the fuel that drives progress, the foundation of understanding, and the key to success. Those who cultivate this hunger are better equipped to navigate the complexities of the world, to make informed decisions, and to achieve their goals. They are less likely to be victims of their own naivete and more likely to become masters of their own destiny. Mark's story is a powerful lesson, a reminder that ignorance is never bliss and that the pursuit of truth is always worth the effort. He could have learned the game, adapted his strategy, and fought for his place. But he chose to remain blind, to cling to his idealistic beliefs, and to ultimately become a victim of his own delusion. The cost of his ignorance was his career, his happiness, and his sense of purpose. Don't make the same mistake. Embrace the hunger for truth, and you will unlock your full potential. The trap is set with comfort and ease. The gentle lull of societal expectations, the subtle pressure to conform, and the allure of a predictable path. This comfort is a cage, gilded though it may seem. It limits your perspective, stifles your ambition, and blinds you to the true workings of the world. Those who fall into this trap often do so unwittingly, seduced by the promise of security and acceptance. They prioritize fitting in over standing out, conformity over creativity, and stability over growth. They settle for mediocrity, sacrificing their dreams and aspirations for the illusion of safety. The trap is reinforced by a culture of conformity and groupthink. Those who dare to question the status quo are often ridiculed, ostracized, or silenced. Those who challenge conventional wisdom are labeled as rebellious, disruptive, or even dangerous. This pressure to conform can be overwhelming, particularly for those who are naturally inclined to question authority or to think outside the box. Many succumb to this pressure, suppressing their own unique perspectives and conforming to the expectations of the group. They become cogs in a machine, sacrificing their individuality for the sake of belonging. The escape from this trap requires a conscious effort to break free from the shackles of conformity and to embrace the hunger for truth. It requires a willingness to question everything, to challenge assumptions, and to seek out alternative perspectives. It requires the courage to stand up for what you believe in, even when it's unpopular or uncomfortable. It requires the discipline to cultivate your own unique talents and abilities, and to pursue your passions with unwavering determination. The path to freedom is not easy, but it's always worth the struggle. Those who dare to break free from the trap of conformity and to embrace the hunger for truth are the ones who will truly thrive. They are the innovators, the leaders, and the game changers who shape the future. The truly powerful understand that the hunger for truth is not a passive yearning, but an active weapon. It's a strategic advantage, a tool for dismantling the illusions that others cling to so desperately. This hunger must be deliberately cultivated, honed, and weaponized. It's not enough to simply desire truth. One must become a relentless seeker, a master of observation, and a shrewd analyst of human behavior. The Machiavellian approach demands a cold, calculating assessment of reality, stripped of sentimentality and moral pretense. It requires the ability to see people as they are, not as they pretend to be. This means recognizing the inherent self-interest that drives most actions, the hidden agendas that lurk beneath the surface of polite conversation, and the unspoken desires that motivate even the most seemingly altruistic individuals. To truly wield truth as a weapon, one must first master the art of deception. This is not about embracing falsehood for its own sake, but about understanding how illusions are constructed and maintained. It's about recognizing the power of narratives, the seductive appeal of comforting lies, and the ease with which people can be manipulated through their emotions and biases. By understanding these mechanisms, one can then exploit them to their own advantage, using truth strategically to shatter false beliefs and expose hidden weaknesses. This requires a deep understanding of psychology, particularly the cognitive biases that distort our perceptions and lead us to make irrational decisions. Confirmation bias, for example, leads people to seek out information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. By understanding this bias, one can craft arguments that resonate with people's pre-existing beliefs while subtly introducing new information that challenges their assumptions. The Machiavellian strategist understands that truth is often most effective when delivered in small doses, carefully calibrated to the recipient's capacity to absorb it. A sudden, overwhelming revelation can be jarring and disorienting, leading people to reject the truth outright in order to protect their fragile worldview. Instead, the strategist plants seeds of doubt, gradually eroding the foundations of false beliefs until they crumble under their own weight. This requires patience, subtlety, and a keen understanding of human psychology. It also requires the ability to anticipate the reactions of others, to predict their defenses, and to adapt one's approach accordingly. Furthermore, the hunger for truth must be directed inward as well. Self-deception is perhaps the most insidious form of delusion, blinding us to our own flaws and weaknesses, preventing us from achieving our full potential. The Machiavellian strategist must be ruthlessly honest with themselves, constantly scrutinizing their own motives, biases, and limitations. This requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about oneself, to acknowledge one's own imperfections, and to constantly strive for self-improvement. This introspective process is essential for developing the clarity of vision and the strength of character needed to navigate the treacherous landscape of power and influence. The strategic application of truth also involves understanding the power of timing. Revealing a crucial truth at the wrong moment can be disastrous, while waiting for the opportune moment can yield maximum impact. This requires a careful assessment of the prevailing circumstances, the political climate, and the psychological state of the target audience. The strategist must be patient, observant, and ready to strike when the iron is hot. This also involves understanding the importance of controlling the narrative, of framing the truth in a way that is most favorable to one's own interests. The same facts can be interpreted in multiple ways, depending on how they are presented and who is presenting them. The Machiavellian strategist understands this and actively works to shape the narrative in their favor, ensuring that the truth is understood in a way that advances their goals. Finally, the weaponization of truth requires a certain degree of detachment. The strategist must be able to view the world with a cold, objective eye, unburdened by sentimentality or moral considerations. This does not mean that one must be devoid of empathy or compassion, but rather that one must be able to set aside these emotions when necessary in order to make rational decisions. The pursuit of truth, like any other strategic endeavor, requires a certain degree of ruthlessness. It requires the willingness to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term gain, to prioritize strategic objectives over personal feelings, and to make difficult choices that may have unpleasant consequences. The hunger for truth, when properly harnessed, is a powerful tool for achieving one's goals, but it must be wielded with caution, skill, and a deep understanding of the human psyche. It is not a game for the faint of heart, but for those who are willing to embrace the uncomfortable realities of the world and to use them to their advantage. Only then can one truly break free from the shackles of illusion and achieve lasting success. Consider the rise and fall of empires, built on foundations of carefully constructed narratives. Every war, every conquest, every shift in power is preceded by a deliberate manipulation of truth, a sculpting of perception designed to mobilize populations and demonize enemies. The victor writes the history, not necessarily because they are inherently more virtuous, but because they possess the power to control the narrative. They rewrite the past to justify the present and secure the future, burying inconvenient truths beneath layers of propaganda and myth. The historical record is not a neutral accounting of events, but a battlefield where competing narratives clash and the strongest prevails. Think about how a nation convinces its citizens to send their sons and daughters to die in foreign lands. It is not through honest accounting of geopolitical complexities, but through appeals to patriotism, fear, and a carefully cultivated sense of moral righteousness. The enemy is dehumanized, their motivations distorted, and the potential consequences of inaction exaggerated. The truth becomes a casualty of war, sacrificed on the altar of strategic necessity. Even in times of peace, the struggle for narrative control continues. Political factions vie for influence, corporations shape public opinion, and individuals curate their own personal narratives online. Every piece of information we consume is filtered through a lens of bias, shaped by the agenda of its creator. To navigate this complex landscape, one must develop a keen sense of skepticism, a willingness to question everything, and to seek out alternative perspectives. It requires the ability to recognize the subtle cues of manipulation, the emotional appeals, the logical fallacies, and the selective presentation of facts. The true strategist understands that the battle for truth is not a passive observation, but an active engagement. It requires not only the ability to deconstruct existing narratives, but also to construct one's own, to frame the truth in a way that serves one's own interests and advances one's own goals. This is not about lying or distorting reality, but about understanding the power of framing and persuasion, of shaping the conversation and controlling the message. The hunger for truth is not merely an intellectual pursuit, but a primal drive that resides deep within the human psyche. We are all, to some extent, truth seekers, driven by a desire to understand the world around us and our place within it. But this desire can be easily manipulated, exploited by those who seek to control our thoughts and actions. We are drawn to narratives that confirm our existing beliefs,